Are you ready for this? This is the end of the hack. This is the very last turn. Here it is. There's no reinforcements on the 20th turn, but then the Austrian Knights, it's Oswin, and he gets a critical hit. This is why Maxime needed a name, by the way, because the code to make units fights requires both of them to have names. He didn't actually disappear from the map. I guess I coded that wrong. I had a bit of trouble figuring out the fight code. But, that's okay. He's just taking him in to fall over. Nothing can stand up to Austria's might. In the scene, the idea was for the Austrian Knights to come rescue them, and I was like, oh my god, it has to be Oswin. Even if you kill him, this guy appears, because, I mean, somebody had to appear. So my thought is that he was merely wounded. So anyway, now the victory music plays. We won! We won! We have to go to Lord Uther now and finish the plot. Remember that our heroes, and here's Castle Austria, it fades kind of quickly, because I had trouble figuring that cutscene out too. Took a while. But anyway, this is Lord Marcus's regent, or not regent, his herald, as he doesn't have a regent, his herald, as you recall. And he told them the whole Dawn story. And Lord Uther's like, okay, now get lost, herald. I have to talk to the main characters. You can see I put Eliwood and Lyn too close together. I should have moved Eliwood further, a little further forward. In some scenes I remembered to correct this, and some I didn't. I guess at some point I have to go back through and, like, properly correct everything and put everything back in the hack. Fix all the bugs. Aw, Eliwood is so shy. He's like, oh my god, it's this dude. I don't know who he is, but apparently he's important. I think Uther is pretty cool dude, so, you know, he's pretty cool here, I guess, being all chill. And, I also, one of my goals for this hack was, you know, the characters didn't, as I said in an earlier video, I think, it would really not be feasible for the characters to fight Lundgren. They're just commoners. They're not lords in this hack. So, that would just get them arrested. So instead, the goal was for them to basically go and get him arrested, like, do, not exactly a diplomatic solution, but a solution that required kind of finding resources and, you know, evidence and going to people and the people who could actually deal with it. So, Lundgren will be deposed because he's, you know, he attacked into the Lycian territory, and that's not cool in the Lycian League. And, they'll be ruled by a regent, and it will be put under Freyan protection. That's what Harkon is the regent. So that's what, remember back in 7X when he appears briefly as a joke, and I said it was for a thing about the larger story? It's because in the later thing, Kaelin is still under regent, and it's Harkon. I was just thinking about who it should be, and I was like, well, he's a Freyan knight, and he kind of looks like he could be in charge of something. He's got that face, I guess. So there you go. It's not a very exciting backstory thing. If you're wondering whether Uther and Hector are related in this hack, the answer is kind of. Uther is like his great-great-great-grand cousin. Because Hector is secretly 200 years old. It's a long story. It was a story long enough to fill an entire hack that hasn't been made. So, but anyway, they're all very happy that they went to all this trouble. And Hector, and Eliwood, you can see here, Eliwood is really impressed. He's like, oh my god, I am so impressed. He actually shuts up for once. Which, I don't know, is he just impressed by Austrians? Like, he's like, those Austrians, they sure are. Oh yeah, I used a lot of backgrounds. I found this castle background, list of backgrounds, so I was like, hey, this one looks pretty nice. I don't know if it's ever used in the game. I think it may not be. But it looks good. See, he's so impressed by Uther. This is why I think Eliwood just is inexplicably impressed by all of the people related to the Austrian Marquesdom. Because technically Hector is too, just 200 years old. He's from the same genetic family, though. So, it must be the genes? But, he's a well-respected dude who everybody loves. But anyway, this is where our heroes all have to say goodbye. There's a big finale. It's not that big. There's just scenes for every character. What you'll notice in this long montage of goodbyes is that, I mean, everyone is alive in my you know, run-through, so you can't tell. But it's the same whether they live or die. It actually is, like, I know how to do different ones depending on who's alive. It's not that difficult. But, I just didn't want to write, because most of them leave in pairs, just like most of them join in pairs. And I just didn't want to write text for if one of them's dead, if the other's dead, you know. Mostly because You can see there's a lot of bonus text in this hack, so you might be like, and you didn't want to write text to that? What the hell? The thing is, all the bonus text is kind of rewarding to write and to read from my perspective, whereas the text, if you screwed up and let someone die, is basically just less content and punishment text. Yeah, you can see I didn't fix the characters standing too close together. I didn't fix it. Oops. So I was just like, man, that would not be very fun to write. Be a bit boring. And I was like, well, as a Fire Emblem player, I never let any characters die. Except in Shadow Dragon because of the Gaiden requirements, but, you know, normally I never do. So I was like, man, whatever. There actually are, the Lyn mode endings do change depending on whether they're alive or not. But, that's it. So Dart's very... See, they leave in... I try to have them leave the party in the order that seemed to make sense. So they leave first, because, you know, they take the boat back to the port, right, in Frey. So naturally, it's their boat. They leave at the boat. And you can see the support in the background. I carefully selected the background for the port. And, you know, quick thank you from Lyn. I mean, I think it's interesting that Lyn and Eliwood are both kind of the main characters in this story. But the goodbyes are all set to Lyn. And it's because everyone joins the party, basically, with the exception of, I guess, Carlo and Louise, who join just as Pharaians, so they join if Eliwood recruits them. Most of them are friends of Lyn's, or people who decide to join for Lyn's sake. So it's kind of a story about Eliwood, in which all of the characters are Lyn's friends. This is how I imagine the main hack, too, where Eliwood is the main lord, except it's a story entirely about Lyn. It just makes me laugh. No, but they kind of are joint main characters, except everyone is Lyn's friends. Heath and Furina here. Again, I positioned them too close together, so it looks silly. And may they meet again someday. They will. In the hack that isn't written, they would be recruit as enemy. And the reason it's nighttime in the background here is I was like, well, it'll probably take them a few days to, you know, they're walking a long distance, so now it's nighttime. And it's going to be daytime in the next scene. A day has passed. I tried to make it a little cinematic, you know, I guess. And here's Raven. He's in a tough spot, because remember how he betrayed his company to join us? It's a bit bad. So he just wants to hang out with us. Lyn is a little confused by why he would do that, which is probably many people would be confused by that. But Raven thinks they're quirky and interesting, and, you know, he's like, why the hell not? Lyn is understandably less than impressed by this job interview. But, you know, Raven probably knows that she's not going to ditch him, so she's like, fine, but don't steal things. But yeah, so he joins Lyn's entourage, and they would all get recruited together in the next game. You may have noticed before the screen faded out there, Raven's portrait getting erased. Yeah, basically they're just, the screen blacks out, I switch the background and erase the portraits. This is a forest background, I don't think it's used in the main game. I figured most of them would be departing in or around forests, because there's a lot of forest and land in Lycia, it looks like on the map. I mean, because you have the plains, and Lycia is distinct from them, so it seemed like it wouldn't be plains. So I didn't want to use the same background every time, so I tried to find some different ones. And these guys also are placed too close together, and I forgot to fix that before putting the text in. Whoops. It's interesting that these two say goodbye to Lyn, even though they're the only ones who kind of didn't join because of her. Hector's an interesting case in that he was clearly interested in the party solely because of Lyn, but he only joined kind of... Like, he joined because of Lyn, but he joins during the chapter. He's recruited at the end of chapter, regardless of whether you actively recruit him. But he'll only join during the chapter for Eliwood, but he comes with the party for Lyn. So these are the only two who actually came for Lyn, but since she's in charge of the group, you know, they talk to her. And this idea, you know, Uther wouldn't have met with them if Marcus hadn't supported them, because otherwise they'd just be a bunch of random people, right? Uther would be like, who the hell are you? You're just making these random accusations. Although he's apparently pretty chill, so maybe he would have been all cool with it, who knows? But, well, these guys actually have a surprisingly long conversation, don't they? Huh. It's like been a while since I wrote this, so, but, they leave. And now we're in town. You can't hear it, but the music changes to Lyn's Desire here. That's because, you know, for one thing, they're kind of approaching... I mean, it's not clear why Carlo and Louise, maybe they're going back to their posts. I guess, because Kaylin was, like, early. If they were already in Foray, they would have passed Kaylin. But maybe Kent stuck around for a while because he wanted to stick around. But anyway, this one has a city background. So the idea is that they're traveling along. They got to the city. He's taking a break here. Just trying to vary the backgrounds to give the impression of, like, passing of time. Anyway, Lynn's Desire plays. That's because the earlier goodbyes are just kind of, they're all her friends, but, these are kind of Kent, Eliwood, Priscilla, and Nino. They're her close buddies. And Hector gets to be in here, too, even though he's not. Oh, Hector. But, yeah. So, this is Kent's ending. And this is another part of sort of the wrap-up of Lynn's arc, where Kent decides he wants to go back to being in the Knights, because he thinks, that Kaylin, now that Lord Lundgren is deposed, the Regent, they'll be able to get a ruler who really cares about Kaylin, and the knighthood can really do some good. It won't be all corrupt and bad anymore. And he really wants Lynn to come back with him, because, as, mentioned before, he really respects her. And of course, he assumes Lynn's hesitation is because Nino couldn't come. He knows that you can't have Lynn without Nino. But, see, this is because Kent really cares about Kaylin. He's like, really devoted to his homeland. And he thinks Lynn is an excellent knight and an excellent commander, and he's like, we gotta have you on our side, We're not the same without you. And Lynn kind of just assumed it was never possible, so I think that, maybe she's the type who on some level is kind of like, because it seemed impossible, she just kind of put it out of her mind and kind of just didn't even, kind of just pushed away any kind of regrets, because she was like, well, there's nothing I can do, rather than angst over it. But, this is kind of, it's not really, I guess the whole hack kind of does, the characters do discuss, like, just versus unjust lords, but Kent's belief is that if the ruler is just, then an actual system of law and order originating from that ruler can actually help people and, create stability and peace. So he's like, well, now that the unjust ruler is gone, we should go back and be knights again and we can do good. Where I think Lynn, probably when she first joined the knighthood, she probably believed that also. But I think she's like a little more cynical of that idea now. She's like, well, maybe, but, she's maybe a little cynical about authority figures in general. Like, I think she's more like, she's like, yeah, they can be good, but it's not necessarily a good idea to put too much trust in them, even if they have good intentions. She's kind of, you never know, centralized power. Whereas Kent has a lot more faith in it. But Lynn's considering it, she probably does miss Kaylin a lot, and she's thinking, maybe we could do some good that way. Maybe, maybe it'll turn out better than it was before. Maybe we just need the right person in charge. But, and here's Hector. He snuck in with the Lynn's Desire music, the cute music. It's when she reunites with her grandpa, even though he's, as far as they know, he's a complete random dude who has nothing to do with them. Only he knows what he has to do with them. Even Lynn is confused. She's like, because he lives in Austria, remember? She's like, you traveled all the way away from Austria, across Lycia, and now you're turning around and going back? And he's like, yeah, yes, I did. He's lying out of his ass, of course. He just wanted to keep an eye on things, and, make sure she got home all right. She's like, well, thanks, Hector, you're a good guy. And he's like, oh, just gonna be arbitrarily mysterious here. And I put them too close together again, as you can see. And Eliwood's all like, man, it's time to reminisce, because I'm the first character you recruited, and Priscilla's the second. Oh, we didn't actually recruit Priscilla, but she joined the party. And of course they're really grateful, because now their village, they're not safe from bandits forever, but they're safe from the extremely well-armed and organized bandits who were, that sometime should have been 2 words, I think, sometime. Oops, missed the space there. And they're like, come visit us, Priscilla's like, we're going to make sure you visit. So they're both happy. And finally, naturally, because the characters, they don't actually go in reverse order of when you recruited them, because they live kind of all over the place. And in particular, since the Davros have the boat, they had to go first. But naturally, Nina would be the last conversation, because she is Lynn's buddy, and her co-worker. So don't forget, they're mercenaries. This was a mission. And now Lynn doesn't know what to do. She's like, should she be a knight or stay as a mercenary? She hasn't decided. She's thinking over it. But of course Nina is very supportive. She'll always be by Lynn's side no matter what. She's happy as long as she can stay by her side. I actually really like Nina. I think she's adorable in kind of a just extremely loyal and regretted love way. I don't know. She's like the adorable, cheerful character. But I think in their dynamic works well, and that Lynn actually, I hope it comes across that Lynn actually does rely on her a lot. And yeah, the tactician is still here, even though the tactician kind of has more of a role in the early chapters and then kind of gradually disappears as more and more characters appear. But, you know, remember that dude they picked up in the first chapter? Yeah, still here. It's pretty much the same as in, you know, canon. Tactician wanders off somewhere. Like, bye, guys. I'm gonna go tactician somewhere else, I guess. You'll probably find me passed out on the plains again someday. But yeah, that's the end. And the background says the same no matter what, so have some background art. But here's their endings. Kent gets to be a knight again. And I changed their titles too, although his is the same because he's still a knight. And you'll notice they're in a semi-random order. That's because their slots are just... Because, like I said, I directly replaced. So Heath was an overwritten version of Sane. So their slots are kind of... I could have changed the order fairly easily, but I was just like, why bother? You'll notice the two of them end up in Etruria. This is, again, set up for the hack that isn't written, where that's where you're going to recruit them. Etruria figures in the larger story. Louise gets to be the Knight Commander. She's very talented at it. Hector, the unknown X-Fighter. He is unknown. He's mysterious. He continues to be a recluse, but sometimes he wanders around at night. He's completely sketchy. Priscilla the Troubadour. Their titles are a little boring, because I noticed the Lynn mode titles are... When I looked at them, unlike the main game titles are all kind of like, they're all colorful and unique, but the Lynn mode ones are all kind of simple. And yeah, Lynn and cohorts do go to Kaylin and become knights. Lynn decides to go back and give it another shot. But yeah, so like, even in the main game, Florina is just flying mercenary, and Dorcas is just like, you know, axe fighter of Berlin or something. So they're all really basic. So I went with that, just to kind of keep the format. And he goes to Kaylin too, and he becomes a sworn man of Kaylin. So it's like, dang, that's odd. And Eloy goes home and keeps training. And here's Dart. And he continues to be a pirate. I think he replaced Lucius's slot, which was kind of lulzy just to me. At one point I forgot to, when I was beta testing, I saw that I had forgotten to change the portrait, so he still had Lucius's portrait. It was very silly. But, yeah. They all do have text for if they got killed in battle, aka got injured since the Lynn mode, but I'm not going to bother showing that, because, like, man, that sounds annoying. This is exactly the same, pretty much. The tactician one, I mean. So, but this is different. I actually wrote ending text, which is, like, the story hook for the next part. So, because she's convinced that the new region actually will work out, so she decides to go back. You can see it doesn't quite line up properly because it was a little too long, so it stops too high. But although she is happy as a knight, she thinks sometimes of her days as a mercenary. A wandering mercenary, because I can clearly remember what I wrote in the past. And she wonders whether there are further adventures ahead for her. Or more adventures, rather. It's a bit generic, but, you know, I guess it's just meant to imply there will be more. So yeah, that's this hack. That's the whole Dawn thing. I guess we may as well save progress, even though it goes right into Eloyd's story, but there's actually no differences in Eloyd's story. I mean, so it's just some random, like, the characters are all, some of them are changed randomly, and the levels are all silly of the dude who leveled up. So, you know. But that's this hack. And it's short. The plot is fairly simple. It's mostly just written to kind of be kind of funny to me, because I realize it's not really that funny to people who don't have the same sense of humor as me, I guess. But yeah, I'm kind of proud of it, and hope you enjoyed watching me play it somewhat incompetently. And if you're interested, feel free to download the patch and give it a try yourself. Tell me what you think. This is actually the beta of the hack. This is the first time it's been released to be played by anyone but me. I just kind of designed it by myself. And there was no kind of patches released during the stages. So feedback, it's appreciated. And I guess that's really about it. Thank you for watching, and if you play this hack, I hope you enjoy it.